What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the channel, JTFB. I'm Josh Taylor. If you don't know already, at Josh Taylor FB on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. But tonight I'm going to go through some options. We're going to talk NFL draft. And a lot of people have been saying, like, oh, Josh, it's too early for that. The season's still going on and such. And there's, you know, just people being people. Like, I get it. I'm not mad about it. But at the same time, right now, the season for college football is pretty much done. Like, for a lot of teams, for a lot of players, there's a lot of players that opt out of the bowl games. If you're not going to a New Year's Six bowl, then you're pretty much just not, going to be playing in some, the Dollar General Bowl, anything like that. So like college football, like right now, it's turning into like the scouting time of like, hey guys, it's time to kind of buckle down and get those reports in and scout these players out because they'll be going to a lot of the post bowl games, like I said, or they'll go to some of the all-star games like the Senior Bowl, the East West Shrine Bowl, stuff like that. As y'all know, if you followed me in the past, I go to the Senior Bowl every single year. Super excited about that. They've already got a loaded roster for the Senior Bowl. Patrick Paul announced today that he's going left tackle. I think is a good option for Washington. In the second round, if they don't go first round, it's Chris Paul's brother. So I mean, this is exciting time for me. Like this is like off-season time. Appreciate y'all stopping by my setup. I had to reset everything back up. I absolutely hate doing that. By the way, going to Virginia, coming back. So forgive me if anything, it's just kind of like messed up, whatever. Appreciate y'all stopping by. What's going on, y'all? HTTC. I agree with you. So today, like I said, I'm going to focus mainly on just the first round. Because there's a lot of talk, obviously talking about which way should Washington go. Some people want a quarterback. Some people want Marvin Harrison Jr. Some people want Brock Bowers. Some people say you have to go offensive line in the first round. And I think that they're all right answers. And I'm going to talk about why. That I think that they are all right answers. I have no idea why my camera is not focusing in it, by the way. What's going on, Tyler? Thank you for stopping by. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. I'm going to pull up PFF as well and really go through some options of, how I think that, first off, how I think Washington's going to end the season. So right now, obviously, Panthers are pretty much a lock to get that first pick, which goes to the Chicago Bears. So I think Chicago really is the one that can dictate all the craziness of this draft. Because what if they do like Justin Fields? I don't think they do, but what if they do? And what if they do decide to trade back? Like, and a team like New York goes up to 1 to get Caleb Williams, or I don't know, the Raiders or the Falcons or something like that. And it can just the whole draft can literally go left at the very first pick, which is crazy. So that leaves Washington in the state of kind of just like having to wait around. I think they'll finish with a top 5 pick. Absolutely. I don't see that, changing any, with our schedule, with who we have left to play. I don't see that, I don't see Washington falling out of that top 5. I think they are a lock to have a top 5 pick. Then you look at the teams like Arizona, the Patriots, the Bears, who are like, they're going to have 2 top 5 picks more likely than us. I think that with Marvin Harrison Jr., with the tackles, Arizona is another team that you don't know because they have Paris Johnson Jr. on the one side of the line. They can go Joe Alt. They can go Olu Fashanu. And the other side kind of protect Kyler Murray. Or they go quarterback, which I don't think so. I think they do like Kyler a lot. I don't think they go quarterback. I think the Patriots obviously go quarterback. But I think Arizona can be the team that can take one of the tackles away from Washington or Marvin Harrison Jr. because they don't really have a dominant wide receiver 1. Like Hollywood Brown, Rondell Moore, Michael Wilson, they drafted in the 3rd. They have a good wide receiver corps, but it's just not a dominant wide receiver 1, which they would get immediately with Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think Arizona is the team that can really dictate how Washington really goes about this draft. And like y'all said, definitely a top 5 pick. I agree with you. Only see a Jets win, and that apparently is when Aaron Rodgers is going to come back, he said. I don't know why this camera is not focusing in like it's supposed to. This is what I get for taking my stuff apart and taking it to Virginia. That's my fault. Anyways, so I think that if Aaron Rodgers, especially if he does come back, we're not going to win that game. And even with their defense, like even if he doesn't play, I don't trust that we can, win enough games to get out of that top 5. Now, the biggest thing is I thought it was strength, like head-to-head matchups really dictate the picks, but they don't. Apparently now it's strength of schedule, which I think is stupid because like right now the Bears should be ahead of us at 5 and we should be 4 because they beat us, but they're not. because of strength of schedule, which is crazy. But nonetheless, I think, like I said, I think Arizona is the team that really dictates what Washington does. So what does Washington do? I have some graphics for y'all to go through, but also wanted to just go through PFF and just tell y'all how I think this is going to happen. And I'm going to talk about all the options. So I'm going to just take control of all of them because I don't even really need to do this, but always bring up the value because I'm going to just tell you how I think this goes about. Let me know if you can see it. I might need to zoom in a little bit. There we go. So Chicago's going to be on the clock at number 1. I think that Chicago gets a quarterback first off. Let me start the draft. And I think they go Caleb Williams. I think that's the best option for them. Maybe they trade Justin Fields. And I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with Fields, but I think he's obviously not. BH says that they've actually been strength of schedule for a while. I didn't know that. So something I learn something new every day. So I think they go Caleb Williams with their pick. And then, like I said, Arizona is on the clock. Like I said, I think Arizona is dying for a legit wide receiver 1, which they need desperately, regardless of who's going to be a quarterback, which, like I said, I think it'll be Kyler Murray just because, I mean, they paid him a lot. He looks pretty good coming back. I mean, first game, he was really good against the Falcons. I think they go Marvin Harrison Jr., which sucks. Like, I think, you know, a lot of fans here would love Marvin Harrison Jr. I would love Marvin Harrison Jr. I talked about it yesterday on Twitter. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. would be a great option for us if he did fall. And then I think the Patriots go Drake May, poor guy. I think he would end up going to the Patriots if the season ended today. And then Chicago on the clock again after getting Caleb Williams. Where do they go? Do they go offensive line, or do they go? Honestly, they could go Brock Bowers. They could go Malik Neighbors because they need another wide receiver weapon outside of DJ Moore. But this is a really loaded wide receiver class. I think they would go Olu Fashanu, who's the best left tackle prospect I've seen in a long time. And if you know me, I covered Penn State, not this year, but last year and the year before that. And got to spend a lot of time like watching Olu Fashanu, you know, going to the games at Penn State, talking to them after the games, being in the locker room, stuff like that. I love Olu Fashanu. Like, I was surprised he came back because last year he was a top 5 pick. He's still only 20 years old, but they told like his parents and family, like, man, go back to school, like finish. We're fine. We're good. Go back to school, like finish what you want to. Don't like rush going to the NFL. You're going to be a top 5 pick next year if you play like you did this year. And he did. Went back to school and absolutely killed it. I think Olu Fashanu is one of the best offensive tackle prospects I've seen in a long time. Like, I think he's a Tristan Wirfs caliber guy, Rashawn Slater when he came out. I think he can be even better than them. Like, because like I said, he's still only 20 years old, still super raw at the position, and just absolutely kills it. So, with this being said, if Marvin Harrison Jr. somehow fell to Washington at 4 or 5, wherever we end up picking come April, I think it's an option that you do have to think about. Because Marvin Harrison Jr. is not just a wide receiver. He is, and I don't use the word like elite, you know, loosely, or like a blue chip player. Like, you want to talk about a blue chip prospect. Marvin Harrison Jr. is that guy. Marvin Harrison Jr. is not just a wide receiver. I mean, I'm not even talking about just the numbers with that average quarterback play that he had this year. Obviously, last year still had 1,200 yards with CJ Stroud, 14 touchdowns. This year doing the same thing, 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. He had more of a, and the thing that impressed me with him this year is just how he had the ability to just take games over by himself. Yes, they have Emeka Egbuka, you know, Fleming. Last year they had Jaxon Smith-Njigba. So he had to kind of, you know, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, like, if you've seen how he played, good Lord, the game in the Rose Bowl against Utah where he put up like 300 yards. So it's impressive that he's had these kind of numbers his whole career pretty much at Ohio State. Obviously, 2021, he didn't play much. You had Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Like, he was not really getting on the field much. But this guy is not just, I'm telling you, he's not just a regular wide receiver. You can put on any game. I mean, even the Penn State game. Like, I love Kalen King. I think he's a really good corner. But Marvin Harrison Jr. single-handedly hurt his draft stock the last 2 years. He went up against Joey Porter Jr. last year, gave Joey Porter Jr. a lot of fits. But I mean, you see the receiving grade, the yards per route run. He doesn't drop the ball ever at all, whether he's going against man or zone. I mean, his contested catch rate is super high. Deep yards, he's 4th in the nation. I mean, these numbers are it's ridiculous for his size and how he actually plays is what really blows me away. 6'4", 205. And I mean, he plays like he's a fast wide receiver. He gets separation instantly off the line. He keeps separation as breaking point. He makes the craziest catches. Probably the best catch I've ever seen in my life is when I forgot who it was against, where he caught the ball and snuck his like one leg back in bounds while he was out of bounds, snuck his one leg back in bounds just to get a catch. Like like you can't teach that. You either have it or you don't. And Marvin Harrison Jr. absolutely has it. So is Marvin Harrison Jr. an actual option for Washington? I say so. 6'4", 205, like I said. If he falls and he's on the board there, I love Terry McLaurin to death, but I'm telling you guys, Washington does not have a single elite player on this. Do y'all agree with me when I said this? A lot of people disagreed with me when I said this, but I don't think Washington has a genuine player who can be elite. And what I mean by elite is someone that can take a game over. I think Terry McLaurin is a second tier wide receiver. I'm not putting him on the range of a Justin Jefferson and a Tyreek Hill or AJ Brown or even CeeDee Lamb's having that kind of year. And I know you want to talk about the quarterbacks that Terry has played with. I get it. But if Sam Howell is the quarterback again next year, which I'm expecting, by the way, it's going to be the same quarterback that he had this year. And we saw this drop off with Terry. And Terry was already old coming out of the draft. Like that was the one thing that hurt Terry was he was considered one of the old guys in the draft. So like you gotta think about the trajectory, like when their peak is. I think Terry's hit his peak. I don't think he's really fallen off yet. I think he's still up there, but I don't think it's going to get higher than what we've seen so far, which has been a really good borderline top 10. I think he's like an 8-9 wide receiver, maybe 10 in the league. But it's just crazy to me that we can actually, like, some people call him elite. I don't think I'm ready to call Terry McLaurin elite. Jonathan Allen's not elite, and we've seen that this year. There's no one on this team that is elite. And another thing to think about is, will this change take just one off season, or will this be like a 2-3 year plan that the new head coach, the new GM rolls out and says, look, guys, we're building for the future. You know, we can afford to take a Marvin Harrison Jr. Because we have a lot of draft picks this year. We have a lot of cap space we're going to spend. We can afford to take the best player that is on the board. Latu from UCLA, the top edge rusher of the draft, for my opinion, just declared for the Senior Bowl, so that's exciting. Can we afford to take a player like Marvin Harrison Jr.? And it's always yes. It's not like go back to the Bengals when they got Jamar Chase. Should they have gone with an offensive lineman? Maybe, but they did what was best and got one of the best players available in the draft with Jamar Chase. They took that swing. I think long term it's paying off for them. There's a lot of different examples of that, but take the best player on the board. Don't say we have to get this because of our need. We have to take a tackle right here because we're missing it. I'm telling you guys, this is a really, really good offensive line draft. Probably the best tackle draft, like from first to second to third round. You can find a starter in those rounds this year because it's so deep. You want to talk about a Jordan Morgan. Like I said, Patrick Paul's another guy who I think can start. Troy Fautanu out of Washington is a guy who can be a left tackle in the league. And you're going to get those guys possibly late first, or you can get them in the second. So it's not like you have to go offensive tackle here in the first round. Would I like to? Absolutely. But if a player like Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the board, you're at least thinking about it. You're talking about that. If not, it's irresponsible to not talk about it because he's that good of a player. And I saw someone talk about Brock Bowers. Jacoby, what's going on? We need to draft Brock Bowers. The dude's a beast, best receiving tight end in the nation and blocking tight end in the nation. Brock Bowers could take a game over. I completely agree with you. I think that he's the kind of guy that, first off, some kind of alarms going off. He's the kind of player that I have no idea what that is, by the way. It sounds like it's outside. He's the kind of player. He's one of the best blocking tight ends of all time. He is actually a finalist for one of the best offensive linemen in the country. First off, that's crazy. How does a tight end even qualify for an offensive lineman trophy? He's just that good. He's elite at blocking. And we've seen over the years how he can take over a game and receiving role as well. I think once again, people will get mad when you say, hey, there's no way we're drafting a tight end in the top 10. No way. But I'm telling you guys, Brock Bowers is not just a tight end. You are getting a receiving weapon, but you are putting him in line as well. You look back at the last few years when Logan Thomas is getting just chipped bad by Aiden Hutchinson or even Trayvon Walker that game. When we have struggled to pick up the pass rush from these quick guys, Kayvon Thibodeau, stuff like that. Brock Bowers helps that out. It's not just the receiving game, but he's also the best. I mean, he's an elite blocker, like elite. He made the list of best offensive linemen over Olu Fashanu, which is mind-blowing, by the way. Olu Fashanu absolutely needs to be on that list because he's elite as well. But he made the list as one of the finalists for best offensive lineman in the country, which is crazy. I don't think it's ever happened that a tight end's been a finalist for that trophy. What up, fellow sufferers? We're all here. If we go right tackle, left tackle with our first two, I'll be pumped. Said the same last year. And another thing to talk about is how much do you want to invest in the offensive line in the draft with those first two picks, especially. I see some people do mock drafts. I'm not going to, pick on anybody, but they'll draft like 4 or 5 offensive linemen. I'm like, be realistic. Cosme's going to start next year. There's no way we're going to just draft 5 guys and probably only 2 or 3 of those start or contribute. I think you could draft 2 starters in this draft. Absolutely. I think that has to happen. One of the tackles, whether you move Wiley back to left guard like he played, or if Cornelius Lucas starts at left tackle for a year and he's like your bridge gap and you go right tackle with a guy like Talise Fuaga from Oregon, who I think is elite, by the way, too. I love Fuaga. He's one of my favorite tackles in this draft. I think he's going to be like a Darnell Wright and sneak into like that top 20, top 15 come April. I think you could do that. But are you going to find a starting left tackle and a starting right tackle in this draft? Honestly, it's possible. You want to talk about a guy like Blake Fisher from Notre Dame, Kingsley from BYU, who can play left tackle and right tackle. These are guys you're getting in the second, third round that have the upside to start because it's not even just that the offensive tackle draft this year is crazy deep, but the positions everywhere else are so good too. Good players are going to fall. This wide receiver draft is probably the best ever. Like ever. Top to bottom is probably the best ever. This corner draft is insanely good as well. Then you have the run on quarterbacks. This quarterback class is probably the best it's been in the last 3-4 years. Like, God, the last few have been awful compared to this. So you're going to see a lot of good players fall. So once again, if you go Brock Bowers, if you go Marvin Harrison Jr., Laiatu Latu at the 5, I don't care. Anyone outside of offensive tackle, don't think that second round is not going to have a starter in it because I guarantee you it will. Now, of course, offensive line is super important. There's going to be a run on offensive lineman as well. But I think that you can get a starter in that second to third round still. We could draft tight end and linebacker in the third round. Absolutely. I've seen, the linebacker like rankings is so crazy. I think Edgerrin Cooper is my number 1. Trotter is my number 2. Carter is my number 3. 4 is probably Peyton Wilson. Any of those guys. Like, I'm taking any of those guys. And then tight end, same. Like Lockie from Iowa. He could be there in the 3rd. You got guys like Jaheim Bell. Ben Sinnott from Kansas State's a guy I've been watching a lot lately. Like the tight end. I like the tight end draft a lot too. Like I'm telling you guys, this is a perfect draft to have a lot of picks in. Draft Bowers with our first pick, get 2 offensive linemen with both of our second round picks. Offensive line are deep in this draft. Absolutely. 100% agree. What's going on, Big E? Tight end, quarterback, best friend, but damn no, we need a left tackle just as much. Absolutely, we need a left tackle just as much. I love Charles Leonard to death, but he's like 15.5 cap space next year, 15.5 million. And just talking to, people in the draft community, guys like Jordan Reed for ESPN, Matt Miller, it's well known around the league that Washington's tackle position is bad. And from what I've, heard and talked to, like people agree that Charles Leno shouldn't be the guy next year because, he is getting up there in age. Like I said, that contract it's a big hit. Do you want to spend $15.6 million next year on him? Or is he a post June 1st cut to where you're saving a lot of cap space? I think that's the route you should go if you can drastically improve. We saw Cornelius Lucas in one game. Are you willing to roll the dice and start him next season? to see if he can be consistent, if he can stay healthy? Do you take a guy that can go behind him, like later on in the draft, that can, develop behind him and then come in and start if he has to? There's a lot of different scenarios with that left tackle spot. In my opinion, Joe Alt is better than Olu, but Brock Bowers will add Sam Howell another weapon. He's just as good. And I've talked to some people, they're actually kind of low on Joe Alt. I think Olu Fashanu is elite. I think he's a 9.9 out of 10. I think Alt is a 9.4 is what I'm probably going to finish at grade-wise for him. Olu Fashanu is just better on his feet, more elusive, a little bit quicker, a little bit more athletic than Joe Alt, but I love the strength, the physical toughness of Joe Alt. I think that's a little bit higher, but like I said, Olu Fashanu is still only 20 years old. Next year, he's going to be even better. So I think Olu is a home run pick. What's going on? Gucci Sushi. Love the name. If you don't take Bowers, you got to snag JT Sanders out of Texas. I'm not a Longhorn at all, but I live here in Austin, Texas, and I see, Texas games all the time. Love Sanders. I don't think they used him enough at Texas. I think he's going to be a much better pro than he was in college, and he was good. It's not like he was bad at Texas. It's just I feel like we haven't seen the best out of Ja'Tavion Sanders yet. What's going on? 2 questions, Josh. How you feel about our safety group and what you think about James Williams? Is it James Williams out of Miami? Haven't watched enough out of him yet, but I'm telling you guys, and I get a lot of hate for this, but I don't like our safety group at all. Our safety group is good to us, but outside, if you take the Homer glasses off, which I have to do sometimes, like because I get attached to these players, like I'm a fan too. If you take the Homer glasses off, the safety group is not good. I love Cam Curl. Does he do enough to be paid like a top 3, top 4 safety in this league? I don't know. And I don't know if the next GM is going to pay it. If a guy like Antoine Winfield Jr. can come here, absolutely. I mean, Snead, there's a lot of really good safeties in the free agent class, but then I really like the safety class too. The theme with the safety class this year is a lot of guys are struggling with tackles, though. Guys like Bullock out of USC. Cole Bishop can struggle with tackling as well. But guys like Tyler Newman out of Minnesota, like he's my number 1 safety. If you can get him with one of your second-round picks and upgrade that safety position, you do it. Same with Cam Kinchins out of Miami. I haven't watched enough James Williams to give a thought on him, but I do like this safety class a lot. Like I think this is a really good safety class. Like honestly, there's not a position I'm like, in this draft, except like interior offensive line. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 guys I really like, but then after that, it's kind of like, they might be something. And that's not even like counting like maybe Cody Barton. God, Graham Barton, if he goes inside, then maybe. Aaron Herbert, I think we should draft Joe Alt, Sam Howell leading passing yards right now. He's leading the league in sacks, so protect him, make him more comfortable. And y'all know I love Sam. I'm one of Sam's biggest fans. I love following him around at the Senior Bowl, talking to him, meet his parents. Like I was like fangirling over Sam Howell. Like I was high on Sam Howell before then. And the main thing for me is my whole plans for next year is building around Sam Howell. Because I think honestly, whoever comes in here, the only way you think about not rolling with Sam Howell next year is if you have the opportunity to get Caleb Williams or Drake May. Then of course you're tempted. If you're a GM on a new team, if you're a new head coach, new VP, operations, whoever, if you come here next year, you want to do things your way. You want your roster. You're not going to, go down in flames 3 years later with some other guy's roster who drafted terribly, by the way. Shout out to Ronald Rivera. You're going to roll with your guys. Now, if they draft someone good like Sam Howell, you want to build around him. But he also had this sack problem in North Carolina. Like that was the biggest thing against him was sometimes he throws some ill-advised, throws for no reason. But then also he had a big time sack problem at North Carolina and his transition to the NFL. Can that get better with a better offensive line? I would like to think so. And you've seen that, throughout the season so far where it got better. It was bad. It could only go up from how the season started with Sam Howell taking sacks. Let's see. Bradley said, I think Brendan Rice can be a late round sneaky steal at wide receiver. He's probably a top 100 prospect, probably going to go late third, early fourth. As Jerry Rice's son out of USC, big body guy. I like him a lot. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", 205, if I can remember correctly, maybe between closer to 210. Another wide receiver that can, stack DBs and get that separation. Imagine us drafting Joe Alton and doubling back to get Blake Fisher later on. Bro, I think Blake Fisher is another top 100 prospect. I think he goes third round. Biggie says if Bowers turns out close to Kelce production-wise, that's a game changer in itself. And I get it. Like, people are going to say, what about Kyle Pitts? He, didn't turn out to be anything yet. But at the same time, I'm not putting, anybody that's in Atlanta, I'm not putting anything against them. I think the thing with Brock Bowers is it might take a year, but I honestly don't think it will. You see a lot of these tight ends, year one, it doesn't work out for them. It takes a year or two. I don't think Brock Bowers is going to be that kind. I think more like you see with Sam Laporta for Detroit this year, wanted him bad, by the way. I think that it's still possible that tight ends who can block, but also great receivers can hit the ground running in the NFL. Kyle Pitts was not a blocking tight end. He was more of a wide receiver. And not all wide receivers hit the ground running year one, by the way. So I think Kyle Pitts falls more under that wide receiver category than a true traditional tight end in the league. So I think Brock Bowers, you take him in the first round, top 5, top 6 pick. And by the way, if you ask scouts, if you ask them to just rank players, not by quarterback holds more weight than tight end, Brock Bowers is a top 4. He's probably top 3 talent in this draft. Shout out to Prime, by the way. Glowberry. If I had to rank talent wise in this draft, I'm probably going Marvin Harrison Jr. 1. Who is I'm tempted to say Olu Fashanu 2. And I might say Brock 3, and then Caleb Drake May 4 or 5. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best talent in this whole draft. And I think Olu is the second best, and I think Brock Bowers is third best. Even when he came back from injury, he first came back, he's dominating, taking games over for Georgia. And I can't wait to see, I love watching him in the playoffs and the SEC championship game. I'm an Alabama fan, but I cannot wait to watch him go against that defense. That's the tape you circle back on January, February, March. You're let me see that Georgia Alabama game again. Let me see what Brock Bowers did. JC Latham, the right tackle for Alabama, those are the ones that you circle back on. If new ownership invests in players this offseason, Stromberg might be able to become a freak center next year. And I like Stromberg. I was super high on Stromberg. He was my third center last year. I told you, I said Washington's going to have a lot of interest in Stromberg. They brought him in for an interview the next week after I put out a video on him. And then they drafted him. So I don't think he's a good left guard. And I think that's a mistake of them putting him out there. But I remember at training camp and John Kine talking about it, saying that he just wasn't ready to be a center yet. The coaching staff just wasn't ready for him to play that position yet. I think he could be a good center. So do you draft a center like Jackson Powers of Oregon or Cedric Von Pran from Georgia? There's some pretty good centers in this draft class, but at the same time, Tyler Larson's not it, long term. He's 32, 33. So I really hope Stromberg can be the guy, because that'll take care of one big hole in the line itself. What's going on, Will? If Brock Bowers is voted as one of the best blockers, tight end drafted as a tight end, I would definitely consider taking him. It's something I've never heard of. He's a unicorn. No, Brock Bowers is genuinely a unicorn. And let me go back over here real quick. I've been kind of stuck on the screen, just blabbling on. Oh, I was where's Brock Bowers? Duh. Let's take a look at this. Sorry, Will, I'm going to hide your comment real quick. And you might see this and say, oh, his run blocking grade's only a 70.4. But this is from a tight end. They get graded as an offensive lineman in the run blocking grade. So as an offensive lineman, this tight end is blocking better than some offensive linemen do. His run blocking grade is better than majority. I think the number one pass blocking grade on PFF right now was Patrick Paul. and it was like mid 80s, high 80s is what his overall grade was. So the fact that a tight end was getting in the 70 range is outstanding, by the way. And then you check out his production, where he lines up at. He had 107 snaps in line this year. Ratio compared to last year, it's more split out 50-50 ish, kind of like 60-40 maybe, lined up in the slot and lined up in line. No other tight end is getting these kind, and it's not even just a PFF grade. Like, I don't even hold like PFF to like the, say all of a prospect. Just the production that Brock Bowers has in the 3 years that he's had at Georgia is just outstanding. Yes, he missed a few games this year, so he's only got 664 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's on pace to have more touchdowns than he did last year. I still think he finishes with 700 plus and 7-8 touchdowns. And Brock Bowers, like, this is a guy that I don't see a flaw. Like, when you're writing, you're supposed to do, when you're writing a profile or a scouting report on these guys, you put the strengths, you put the weaknesses, you look at things like mental toughness, competitive toughness, what's his catch radius like? How's his route running? What are his hands? Like, you break down, like, tight ends are so much fun to scout because there's so much to them, because you have to treat them like a lineman sometimes, and you treat them like a wide receiver sometimes. And there's not a single flaw for Brock Bowers that I've seen. Maybe that little injury that he had this season, but I'm not worried about it. Wasn't anything too crazy. He only missed a couple of games. It says right here he played in 9 games out of what, 12 so far, I think it's been. I don't know. But Brock Bowers, like, is absolutely an option at 5 or wherever we end up picking, because he fills in more than one hole for you. And like I said, we don't have any elite players on our team right now. I look at teams like the Eagles, who have a couple of elite players like Lane Johnson and AJ Brown, and the good teams have elite players. And once again, are you trying to rebuild this roster, this team, in one offseason, or are you trying to do it in 2 or 3? Because if you're realistic, it's going to take 2 or 3 years for this team to be a consistent contender. Not like, we're going to sneak into the playoffs. We're going to cross our fingers and sneak into the playoffs next year. I think we could, like, if you do the right moves, obviously, get the right people in here that actually know what they're doing, some competent people that aren't just crossing their arms on the sideline. Then I think there's a chance that you can not just rebuild it for long-term success in year 1, but rebuild it to where you can be a good team next season. But then the year after that, you're stacking up more, blue chip players, where you're just taking the best available. Not like, man, we have so many needs on this team. You can afford to take a Marvin Harrison Jr. You can afford to take a Brock Bowers in these top 5 picks, because you need good players. Like, it's not just, let's see what we have to do. You don't go into a draft room like, all right, guys, first round, we have to take a tackle. Let's see, Olu and Joe Alt just went. Who's the next tackle? That's not how this works. That's not whoever comes in. That's not what they're going to do. Who's our third tackle? That's who we have to take right here. No, if Brock Bowers is there and the third tackle is probably Talise Fuaga, who, like I said, I'm super high on, you're taking Brock Bowers over Fuaga as a top 5 pick. It's just, you have to. Let's see what else we got. Can't pay top dollar and you don't make plays on the ball. Talking about Cam Curl. I like Cooper Beebe. That's just about it, as well as a guard from Miami. Javion Cohen was at Alabama, transferred to Miami. I think he's like a 4th round pick. Cooper Beebe is really weird. Cooper Beebe out of Kansas State. I think PFF has him as like they have him somewhere like in the hundreds, and then other people like PFN have him as like a top 30 pick. I don't know why PFF is so low on Cooper Beebe, by the way. Yeah, 147. That's crazy to me. Because, like, look at his grades. Like, he's a phenomenal prospect. I think Cooper Beebe is one of the best interior offensive linemen. You want a left guard, like, long term, I think Cooper Beebe is the guy. He's only given up 1 sack in 3 seasons, his 3-year career. Couple more hurries this year than you would like, but I'm not worried about that. I think Cooper Beebe is a really good prospect. Like, if you want a left tackle prospect of the future, like, Cooper Beebe is your guy. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. Justino 6. Where do I think Jaden Daniels would go? This is something I talked about last night. if Chicago wants to just cause chaos and they want to trade back to, let's see, let's just say 11. Let's just say the Raiders said, we want Caleb Williams. We want him out here in Vegas. We'll give him ownership of the team, which is fake, by the way. He does not want part ownership of the team. That was totally false. Patrick Mahomes doesn't even have part ownership of the Chiefs. And you think Caleb Williams would get part ownership of a team? Absolutely not. That was the fakest thing I've ever seen. I think if the Bears are saying, like, we still have question marks on Caleb Williams, as good as he is, we still have some question marks on him. We don't think there's much of a drop off between him and Jayden Daniels. Some people don't think there is. I think there is. I think Jayden Daniels is phenomenal, by the way. I don't like how he takes hits like Sam Howell. But the dude got an arm. I loved him at Arizona State. He was a top prospect at Arizona State, flirting with the first round. And then people were like, oh, yeah, we forgot. Jayden Daniels is really good, by the way. I think he's a first rounder. I would probably put him late first round. But I'm telling you guys, like, if the Bears were like, we can trade back to 11 and get Jayden Daniels and get 2 first-round picks out of it for the next 2 years and get a second this year and just overhaul that team, I think they could do it. But if they don't, I think a team like – I don't see him falling past the Falcons at 19. I'm taking him over Bo Nix, by the way. Michael Penix Jr. is a tough one. I don't want to put those two head-to-head because I do like Michael Penix. I love a good lefty. Jayden Daniels might be a little bit better than Michael Penix, though. You got to account for that running aspect that he has. Like, it's phenomenal. Like, he's up there with, like, Jalen Milroe, and I think Caleb can be deadly on his legs as well, but Jayden Daniels and Milroe are just another level with their legs. Like, Jayden Daniels running the ball is crazy. I mean, it's kind of like Justin Fields, but I think he's a way better thrower than Justin Fields when he came out. So I think he would be an upgrade for the Falcons, absolutely. The Bears, I think Jayden Daniels would be an upgrade for. The Bucks, if they don't think Baker Mayfield's going to be there next year. But I don't see him going past 19, honestly. I think Jayden Daniels, I don't think he'll be available in the second. That's something else people have talked about, too, with Washington. Like, Josh, should Washington get a quarterback? If you don't think that they're going to be better than Sam Howell, then what's the point, And I don't see – I think Sam Howell has shown you enough to say, hey, guys, let's build around this guy and give him something to work with. He needs more weapons on offense and he needs better protection, straight up. And give this guy a year and see what he can do. If not, then next year, absolutely go for it. But he's going to cost you nothing this year. And you're not going to really have a shot at Caleb Williams or Drake May unless you trade up. And I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's even an option because of what you're going to have to give up for him unless the next GM comes in here and just absolutely hates Sam Howell. And I'm telling y'all, I said that on a Bleacher Report stream, and I got so much crap for it. I said the rest of the season is Sam Howell auditioning for the new people. And they're like, are you stupid? Are you watching the games? Guys, I told you, I'm one of Sam Howell's biggest fans. I love Sam Howell. But at the end of the day, the business side of it says, I want who I want, especially at that quarterback position. I'm going to market this guy. He's going to be on our, the front of everything. He's going to be like on our tickets. We want this quarterback to be like the marketing guy. And if they don't like Sam Howell, if they don't like what they see in Sam Howell, then they're going to take somebody else. But I think they do like Sam Howell. And I just don't see a way that you just move on from him already because you've seen too much good. Like if it was just, all these sacks and he's not throwing the ball down the field, it's a different thing. But I don't think Washington goes quarterback. I don't even think they take one in like the second or third. That's something else people have said. If Michael Penix is there in the second, if Jayden Daniels is there in the second, if Bo Nix is there in the second, do you take him? No. That pick is way too valuable, in my opinion, building around Sam Howell. Because once again, if you draft one of those quarterbacks, you're still going to have to build around those guys. And now you don't have one of the picks because you took the quarterback. Let's see. Luca brought up a good point. Howell's getting paid like a 5th-round pick. Washington has to take advantage of such a good situation to step into. Absolutely. It's same with San Francisco. I've said this many, many times. Having a quarterback on a rookie deal and a rookie contract is the biggest luxury in the NFL. Ask the Chargers, who are paying Justin Herbert a ton of money, and they still suck. The Bengals are going to have some decisions to make in free agency because they paid Joe Burrow a lot. Is he worth it? Absolutely. I think Justin Herbert's worth it. But you have a lot of needs on that team now on both teams, honestly. I think the Chargers in a terrible situation, but having that luxury of a rookie quarterback helps you out so much. 6'2", 235. Brock Bowers? Y'all tripping, man. I'm telling y'all, Brock Bowers, 6'4", 230. Put some respect on Brock Bowers. That's a grown man. Look at that. Brock Bowers, I'm telling you, like, Brock Bowers is going to be hitting some dudes. And that's another thing I love about Brock Bowers. Like, his competitive toughness, his physical toughness. Brock Bowers is not shy away from contact. He's going to be catching stuff across the middle. He's going to be breaking tackles. Like, Brock Bowers, like, puts his life on the line every time he's on the field. Let's see. Well, actually, I want Bowers. He can block for Sam. Give him a good target. Eric Bieniemy will take a tight end too. Absolutely. Olufashanu is he's from Waldorf, Maryland. I can't remember where he went to high school, but yeah, he's local. Some people say after Chase Young, we shouldn't take a local anymore. Here we go. Good question, Greg. Someone reasonable. Who do I like at the edge rusher position? Not saying they will go top 5. With the edge rusher, but Latu, like I said, out of UCLA, just committed to the Senior Bowl. He'll be there. This guy's a top 10 talent in the draft. He could go 5, 6, 7 easily. If it's not Washington, who could it be? First off, UCLA had the best pass rushing, not even his duo, trio in college football. Production-wise, it's outstanding what they had. But this dude's production is absolutely bonkers. He had 14 sacks this year, 12 last year, 11 hits this year, 39 hurries. He's in the backfield like every single play. Every game I've put on for UCLA, he's in the backfield. Same with Gabriel Murphy, who I think is a really good option. If you want like a 3rd round, 4th round edge rusher with a ton of production, Gabe Murphy out of UCLA, write that one down. I think he's another guy. Opposite of Latu, both of them in the backfield a lot. Chop Robinson, another local kid, love Chop Robinson, another guy I got to talk to and watch while I was covering Penn State. The dude, he can play on either side of the line. His get off is the best in the draft. What game was it? The Rutgers game. There was like two plays where he's like in the backfield before the quarterback takes a single step back, which is crazy. Like his get off is top tier. And he's super raw to position still. I'm not going to say people are going to run with this. I'm not going to like compare him to Micah Parsons, but Micah Parsons, Odafe Oweh, Chop Robinson were all linebackers at Penn State that had to transition to that traditional edge rushing, pass rushing role. And all three have just done it flawlessly. Kind of like Andre Jones, who we got in the 7th last year. He was primarily an outside linebacker for Louisiana Lafayette, and he's transitioning to like that defensive end role. I think he looked great from when we saw him, preseason training camp, and I was watching him. He got a couple reps was it last week or 2 weeks ago? But so I mean, I feel good about Andre Jones as well. But guys like Chop Robinson, who transitioned from that linebacker spot to the DN spot, and just does it so flawlessly. Like it's crazy. It makes guys like Jared Verse and Dallas Turner, you're like, this guy has been doing it for like a year or two. Y'all have been doing it like your whole career, and he's got a better get off than y'all. Jared Verse is much, more of a strength guy. He's going to bull rush the heck out of your left tackle and push him into the quarterback. He's got some violent hands too. But the edge rushing class, like the top 4 or 5, you're getting completely different players. Like, Latu just does everything flawlessly. Like he's got every tool in the tool belt at rushing the quarterback. And the same with Chop Robinson, really good at stopping the run on the way to the quarterback, but just a violent get off. Like I said, Jared Verse is probably the strongest edge rusher. And then Dallas Turner is another guy who kind of reminds me of like Chop Robinson. Not as big as like Jared Verse and not as strong, but just so fast. But he's also disciplined. Like he's not over rushing the quarterback or anything like that. I love Dallas Turner. Braylon Trice is another guy I'm super high on. I don't think he'll go top 20. But if he was to like fall in the 2nd round, you run to the podium and you get Braylon Trice, by the way. Outside of him, JT Tuamaloa from Ohio State. Jonah Ellis, sack leader in the nation right now. Chris Boswell, another Alabama edge rusher. I mean, there's a lot of really good edge rushers in this class. I think it's deep too. One guy that I've come on to late because I saw he got accepted to the Senior Bowl. I started watching his tapes, and this guy was violent. I know I've kind of gotten off the topic of first round, but I'm just talking prospects right now. Out of Missouri, where he is, Darius Robinson. I really like this guy's tape, like a lot. I can't wait to see him at the Senior Bowl. 8 sacks this year, 6 hits, 22 hurries. But you watched like that Georgia game, dude was causing havoc in the backfield. And the run stop rate, that's another thing I want to see. Kind of like that's what Montez Sweat did so good, was stopping the run on the way to the quarterback. But he's actually getting production this year while doing so. That's what I like out of an edge rusher. Like, I don't want a guy who can just straight pass rush. I want a guy who's stopping the run. He's got an 81.4 run defense grade, which is higher than his true pass pass rushing grade, which is crazy because I love him as a pass rusher. But I'm starting to finally put my board together of some, because I'm not really keen on Washington taking an edge rusher in the first round, maybe in the second round, depending on what you do in that first round. But I think you can get really good pass rushers in that third, fourth round this year. Like I said, Gabriel Murphy is another guy. I'll show y'all him real quick, that played opposite of Latu, that I think you can get in that third, fourth round. They have him as 112. Princely is another guy who a lot of people are talking about going to Washington. Haven't watched a lot of him yet. Steve Linton I've watched. Jasheen Davis is another guy, super underrated. So I think there are some really good edge rushers, but it doesn't matter who you talk to. People are like, oh, you can't find good players late in the draft. And I'm telling y'all that is so false, because there's so much that goes into it. You got to look at where they played, who they played with, what the scheme was. Like, scout the player, not, where they played, how long they played. Did they perform to the top of, their capabilities? Were they set up to succeed where they were? There's just so much that goes into it. I like KJ Henry a lot too. Our guy that we got out of Clemson that we traded up for in the 5th round. Like, I wouldn't be mad if they gave him a whole year next year and then got like a Brian Burns or a AJ Apenza from the Bills, or Josh Allen from the Jaguars. We got another one. Tyler Davis out of Clemson just committed to the Senior Bowl. So I wouldn't be mad if they gave KJ Henry a year and then paid for an edge rusher, like someone that's worth it, like Brian Burns or Josh Allen. Or drafted somebody in the first 3 rounds who can be like a high production player. I wouldn't be mad at that. Like, if they pass up on one in the first and second rounds, I'm not going to freak out. Once again, I love Chop Robinson. I love Latu. I love Dallas Turner. Same with Jared Verse. I think he's really good. Last year, he had been a top 5, top 6 pick probably. But outside of that, Greg, I think this is a really good edge rusher. Turbo says, bring back the Redskins. Not going to happen. I wish it was, but it's not. Oh, here we go. Big E. Why is it so hard for GMs, coaches to realize to build a team so good for an incoming quarterback to play well? Look at Dilfer, and they didn't need a good quarterback when the Ravens won. What was it, 2000? So, yeah, there's people that want you to take a good quarterback and then just let him, just pray that he can take it to the promised land. But then there's other other teams, coaches, whatever, that say build up a good team around your quarterback, or set the foundation of a good team, then find your quarterback. So I think that's why, one, you roll with Sam Howell next year, because you've seen some really good out of Sam Howell. And straight up, this team, on the roster, on paper, to us, it might look good, but it's not. League-wide, if you compare our roster to other teams, we're like a bottom 5, bottom 6 roster. And I know the coaching has a lot to do with it. Now, I think the play on the field gets better with the coaching changes that are going to happen. Defensive coordinator, head coach, hopefully, God, please. And then, GM and someone actually running this team the right way. I think the talent does go up. But at the same time, I still think that this roster is just bad. Top to bottom, I think Ron just built a ugly roster. I said it yesterday on Twitter that Washington's in a really tough spot at corner, because Kendall Fuller's a free agent. He needs to be either paid or replaced at a very high price, like a good good top tier corner needs to come in. You don't know what you have in Forbes. If Forbes looks like he did the first few games of the season, things are going to go south really fast. And then Ben St. Juste is showing every week that he's not a long-term starter for you. So what do? Do you pay Fuller and go pay another corner and move Forbes in the slot? Or do you sign somebody that can go in the slot at free agency? Or do you draft one pretty high? Like, do you take a corner like pretty high, like in the first 3 rounds of the draft and just, I don't like it. They built a really bad roster. I'll say but I'll say Ron. Ron built an ugly roster and it just doesn't go together. And we're seeing that on the field every single Sunday. And I don't know what they're going to do with corner. Like, I'm so frustrated at the corner position because I love Forbes to death. I have his jersey. Like, I'm pulling for the guy. It's nothing personal, but the pick was obvious. It was supposed to be Gonzo. Gonzo was supposed to be the pick. And we'd be in a much different position at corner if we would have just made the common sense pick, but we didn't. So I don't know what the heck they're going to do at corner. Aaron said, if the draft was today, are you taking Brock Bowers? If we are at 5 and it falls like this, then absolutely I'm taking Brock Bowers. If it goes Caleb, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake May, Olu, and you're stuck between Joe Alt and Brock Bowers, it's so hard to say no to Brock Bowers. I'm strictly drafting the best player available on the board. And it's not even just because PFF has him ranked 5. Once again, I think he's the 3rd, 4th best player in this entire draft. I think you do have to take Brock Bowers. It's time to just draft the good player, not look at your board and say, all right, what do we need? Well, like I said, if Olu and Alt are gone, you're not going to just draft the 3rd overall tackle at that 5 spot and pass up on a player like Brock Bowers. That's just not what's going to happen. RS Swimmer 84 said, I think we need to sign an edge rusher like Josh Allen or Brian Burns. Like I said, if they're available, like the rotation with Henry Jones too, we'll resign him, another late day 2, day 3 rookie. Absolutely. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. Rotate some guys in, get fresh legs in there. Swing big for Brian Burns, please. I love Brian Burns. I want him so bad. Who would you take with both of our 2nd round picks if we were to take a tight end or tackle with our top 5 pick? Good questions. Let's look at that real quick. So say we take Brock Bowers or Joe Alt here. Whoops, let me go to the actual screen. Where would I go? So if we go Brock Bowers, first off, my pick in the 2nd round, it's been pretty consistent. I don't see J.C. Latham falling. Mims is probably going to go late first, might go in 2nd. It comes down to these 3 guys here. Troy Futanu out of Washington, Jordan Morgan out of Arizona, and then Patrick Paul out of Houston. Those are my top 3. All 3 are left tackles. Jordan Morgan, by the way, man, I think he's the best of the 3. He faced the top pass rushers in the country. He went against Braylon Trice. He went against Gabe Murphy. He went against Latu. He went against Jordan Burch out of Oregon. Like, he faced the best of the best, and he had a great season. I think this is another guy who's going to be at the Senior Bowl. Like I said, Patrick Paul was the 8th overall graded offensive tackle in the entire country, left or right tackle, and he was the number 1 pass protecting offensive tackle in the entire country. Run grade's a little so he's working on that. I want to see a little bit more functional strength out of Patrick Paul. That is Chris Paul's brother, our left guard. That's his brother. By the way, cool dude. He followed me back on Twitter, so I'm going to talk to him, kind of keep in touch with him throughout this whole process. But if I'm taking Brock Bowers in the 1st, I'm going Jordan Morgan here in the 2nd round. If we go Joe Alt in the 1st round, say he falls to us. In the 2nd round, shoot, what pick are we again? 36-37. God, that's beautiful. Thank you, Montez Sweat. 36-37. I love seeing that. That was a genuine smile. 36-37. This is where I say it's tough because we're in a really bad position corner-wise. Kamari Lassiter would be a really good corner, but is that what you're going to do? I don't know. I'm looking at a few things. you can go edge rusher. Chris Broswell had a really good season this year, opposite of Dallas Turner. TJ Tampa's, he might be my number one corner. I love TJ Tampa a lot. You also have Quinyon Mitchell, really good. There's one guy I've been getting in the second round a lot, and that is Edgerrin Cooper. Really like Edgerrin, really good guy too. He's been going through it the last few weeks. But Edgerrin Cooper, he's my number one linebacker. Whoa. He's my number one linebacker for a lot of reasons. One, you just put on the tape and he's everywhere. 91.4 grade this year, which is ridiculous, by the way. Coverage graded to 90.3. Like he translates to be like an elite NFL linebacker. I think he's the most sure hit in the NFL, like at linebacker. And I love Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Like I said, he's probably my number 2 linebacker in the draft. But I have no problem taking him in the second with one of those 2 picks. But we do have 2. So say we go, Princely is a good option too. Jatavion Sanders. Or like I said, if you go corner. So I think if you take Joe Alt in the first, that allows you, like, that's a big fill in the offensive line. That allows you to really look at the defense and say, look, we need to fix this thing up bad. Maybe you go wide receiver Keon Coleman if he's there. I don't think he would be. Emeka Egbuka. Once again, I said I love Cameron Kinchins a lot. These are all guys that might slip. Tyler Dubin, he's one of my favorite draft players in the whole draft. I love Tyler Dubin. Kalen Key at corner. Xavier Leggett. I'm clicking on him. This is a guy I've put in my mock draft a lot. Xavier Leggett is next level. 6'3", 227, and he does not play like he's 6'3", 227. He plays like he's 6'3", like 195. He's so fast. He's so smooth in everything he does. He's one of my top wide receivers too so far. Like I said, wide receiver is absolutely a need, and it is a need. I think Curtis Samuel's gone. He's been our most productive wide receiver this year, which is crazy, but I don't think you pay him. Like I said, we need to revamp this roster. We need some fresh people in here. We're not running back that same roster. They're not going to want to pay a lot of these guys that are here. I'm telling you, I hate to say it. Cam might be gone. Curtis Samuel might be gone. Fuller, I don't think they can afford to lose him just because they need help that bad at corner. God, if we lose Fuller and we don't replace him with a big name, we're in trouble. But wide receiver, so you have Terry on one side, you put Jahan in the slot. You get a guy like Xavier Leggett who can, first off, great hands. Like, oh my gosh, phenomenal hands. Great after the catch. He's up there with like Troy Franklin. I think he's better than Troy Franklin prospect-wise. I think Troy Franklin's had a better season for sure, but God, Xavier Leggett's really good. I'm tempted. Like, it'd be really hard to say no to him in the second. A lot of people have him going late first, like possibly to the Chiefs because he's that good. Same with Xavier Worthy. Once again, if you go Brock Bowers, Trey Fitanu's right there, man. Those second round picks that we have are so big. And that's why I was telling people, like, I know why we trade Chase, why we trade Sweat. Like, it just had to happen. Like, it absolutely had to happen. So I'm gonna wrap it up here soon, guys. It's been like almost an hour. Appreciate y'all hanging out. But if the season ended today, I think that 5 pick is either Joe Alt or Brock Bowers. Once again, if Marvin Harrison's there, yeah, you absolutely take him. Same with Olu. If Olu's there, you take him. Hopefully we don't slip out of the 6. If the worst case scenario for Washington is falling to like 6 or 7, then we missed out on Alt, Olu, Harrison, and Brock Bowers. If that's the case, then you trade back. That's something else I've thought about too. What if you just straight up trade back for a haul of picks? Because like I said, this isn't just a 1-year fix. What if we're the team that trades back? So say that, like I said, Olu, all of them are gone. Then where are you going? So say Malik Neighbors is there and the team wants to trade up for Malik Neighbors. First off, I would love Malik Neighbors. Say the Titans. Titans say, we want Malik Neighbors. We want Washington to go from 5 to 10. I think we would take a guy like Talise Fuaga at 10. I would absolutely take him at 10. He would start at right tackle next season and for the next 10 seasons. And And then you'd probably get another, like a second this year too. So we'd possibly have 3 seconds this year. Like, Jesus. But it's really hard to do if you're in that top 5 and Brock Bowers or Joe Alt or Olu or Marvin Harrison are on the board, then you don't trade back. But if, God forbid, we land at 6, 7, or even 8 somehow, say we win 2, 3 games, Dallas rests their players last game of the season, we beat them, which would just, God, I would hate it. I would love being the Cowboys, but I would absolutely hate falling out of the top 5 for no reason. Like, there's no kind of trade-off except saying, like, we beat the Cowboys backups. Like, that's not worth it to me. Then I say we would trade back. I don't think we would go Latu or Neighbors or Rome Odunze. I would trade back to 9, 10, 11, whatever. Get that pick, get a second this year. Who knows what else that would go with it. And then you just draft. Like, because this draft is just filled with so many good prospects. Let's see. Daniel says, people don't understand, not only do we have 90 plus mil in money, but there's a lot of players we will get rid of to create more cap space. Absolutely. So like I said, Charles Leno, that 15.6 mil that you don't have to pay next season, possibly if he's not the left tackle next season, then that helps you a lot. Will said, do we sign Antonio Gibson or should we draft a running back as well? Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm going to stay live because I love the running backs this draft class. No, you do not pay Antonio Gibson. First off, you don't pay any running back, let alone Antonio Gibson. And I'm not an Antonio Gibson hater, but people, I don't know, people just expect him to be really good. But once again, I don't think he is that good. He's good out in space. He's good as like that third down running back, kind of like what McKissick was. But this team is in dire need of an elusive back, like a Devon Achane. Because like look what Miami's doing when he's healthy. They have those two, like it's ridiculous. Or a Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens. We've seen his potential. I think Izzy Abanikanda is going to be one of those guys. He's still super young. The Jets have a lot of running backs, so they don't play him. But I'm looking at. I don't feel like taking one in the first 3 or 4 rounds because that's a lot. That's a lot of draft capital. Like that player has to be a starter. And I love B-Rob. I think B-Rob's going to be a great running back for us. I think he's had a sneaky good season, like especially because he's shown us more of what he can do in the receiving game, which he never did at Alabama. So he's gotten much better since being in the NFL, which I love to see. But I'm looking at Bucky Irving and Audric Estime out of Notre Dame. I think both of these guys, if you're getting them in the late 3rd or if they fall to the 4th round somehow, then you take them because Bucky Irving is a great prospect, by the way. And so is Audric Estime, one of the highest graded running backs in the nation. Ray Davis just declared. Another Kentucky guy. I know we have Chris Rodriguez. That's another thing people said. Well, we just got Chris Rodriguez. Once again, like I feel like B-Rob and Chris Rod are too similar. Like we need that elusive guy who can be a home run threat. And once again, like I said, B-Rob's kind of shown us that in the receiving game, but his longest run of his career is like 30 yards. That's not B-Rob's game. When he's out in space, yes, but when he's behind the line, he's running between the tackles, something like that. B-Rob is not a home run type player, and that's okay. You don't have to be. But I think this team really needs that, which you would get with a Bucky or an Audric. Braylon Allen, freak athlete too. Ray Davis, of course, my boy Jace McClellan late. One of my favorite draft guys. He had a bad injury. Oh, he's not on here. Rasheen Ali out of Marshall. Look him up. Rasheen Ali. I watch his film like all the time because he's a beast. Probably going to go undrafted because of his injury last year, but fast. Like that's when I want a track star at running back that B-Rob can just wear down a defense. And then we put this running back in on like 2nd down or whatever, and he just hits a hole and he's going like 70 yards. Like I'm dying for that. Give me that, please. Like, and it does, like I said, it doesn't have to be a top, first 3 rounds. It doesn't have to be a Blake Corum or a Trey Benson who's really good or a Donovan Edwards who's really good. Jonathan Brooks towards ACL, probably going back to Texas, by the way. Marshawn Lloyd's really good, but you don't have to take a running back in those first 3-4 rounds because the other positions are just too good in those rounds to take one. This is a really good running back class, and next year is even better. Next year's running back class is going to go down as like elite. Oh my gosh, there's so many good running backs next year. So I think Washington does need a running back. I'm looking rounds 5 to 7, even undrafted, you're going to get, like I said, a guy like Rasheen Ali, give him to me. Justino brought up one of my favorites as well, Brian Thomas Jr. That's a guy I'm working on a lot right now. Big body Brian Thomas. And like I said, it's the theme with a lot of these bigger wide receivers in this draft class. This isn't the big wide receivers like the Josh Doctson who doesn't get separation, who can't catch. This is a different breed of big wide receivers. Whether it is your Keon Coleman's, you see the highlights, the crazy catches he has. A.D. Mitchell's had a great season. Like I said, Xavier Leggett. Johnny Wilson's really big. He might even be a tight end. Troy Franklin's big. The frame, he's not that big, though. But Brian Thomas Jr., big body. Look at that production he had this year, by the way. 1,079 yards and 15 touchdowns. That's as wide receiver 2. Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 1, obviously. Top 10 pick. Brian Thomas Jr. was just, gosh, he had a great season. But look at that, 6'4", 205. That is the perfect body size for a wide receiver that we need. Like, we need that Mike Evans caliber guy. Like I said, that's a guy I really want as well. Would love Mike Evans. And free agency, like a 2-3 year deal, whatever, something not too expensive. But yeah, we need another wide receiver bad. Let's see what else we got here. William says, we will finish 4th, trade up to number 1, utilize the number 2s to move up, take Caleb number 1. Now you have your franchise QB. I don't see it. I don't think so. First off, I don't think a team like the Bears or whoever picks number 1 overall is going to want to give up Caleb Williams. But second, I don't think a GM is going to want to come in and be that aggressive their first draft as well. I don't think they're going to come in here and say, guys, we're going to mortgage our future for Caleb Williams. Like, you would, if you miss on that, you're losing your job quickly, like bad. E. Jackson said, we need OL and linebacker. Absolutely. I think this is a really good draft to do so. I'll do more videos coming out like by rounds. So like I'll do an offensive line video. Possible selections in the first, which I've like pretty much already done today. You know, if you stay at that 5 pick, you have Joe Alt, Olafashana. If you trade back to like middle first, you've got guys like Talise Fuaga, you've got Mims, you've got Latham, you got Cody Barton, Fotanu might be there, Jordan Morgan might be there. Second round, what could that look like? Third round, what could that look like? 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever. I'm going to go through like every position. Like I'm telling you guys, I'm going to ramp this thing up. This is going to be the best off season for me possible. Not only just like going to these events. It really sucks because I think the East West Shrine Bowl is actually like in Frisco, Texas this year. It's like 2 hours from me, but I'll be at the Senior Bowl at that time. So, I mean, I absolutely love it every single season going out there, like talking to these players and watching them compete. I actually got tackled by Sam Howell at the Senior Bowl. Believe it or not, if you watch, like go back and rewatch it, when he scores in the end zone, he gets like tackled out of bounds, like the left corner. I was on the field during the Senior Bowl. He like fell at my legs and it took everything in me not to fall. But I absolutely had a bruise from Sam Howell on my left shin, I think it was. So go back and watch that on NFL Network. You'll see me and like 3 of my buddies on the field when Sam Howell scored. And I almost got trampled by Sam Howell and everyone else that was celebrating. But like I said, this is going to be a crazy offseason, guys. I'm super excited about it. Appreciate y'all coming and joining up in the chat. Like I said, stay tuned. I got a lot of other stuff. Like y'all know me. I do a lot of streams on Bleacher Report. I'll be going live after almost every single game, do some like midweek topic discussions and stuff like that. I just did one talking about building around Sam Howell and what that looks like. I uploaded it to the channel, so go watch that after this if you haven't seen it already. I think I'm doing like 7 or 8 streams in December for Bleacher Report, just putting out some more content, and then I'll be going live on the channel a lot more often. I've been kind of struggling. Like I said, I had surgery and everything. If y'all know, can't really see it, but my elbow. So I'm coming back, guys. I'm good to go. But I know the NFL season's not over, but we have nothing to play for. But right now, like as a college guy as well, some of y'all don't watch college, and that's fine. I get it. College is completely different right now. But the season's like, if you're not a top 10 team, top 12 team, your season's over. Like I said, there's players declaring for the draft today. They're skipping the bowl game. Like they're done. Their draft prep starts today. So I'll be interviewing players on the channel, something I've done the last few seasons, not even, just at the Senior Bowl and stuff like that, but just reaching out to them, having them on the channel, going live like I am right now, stuff like that. So yeah, exciting stuff coming up, guys. I'm super excited for this off season. I appreciate y'all stopping by. And if you have any more questions, drop it in the comments. I'll go through that the next few days. And I'll try to answer them as quick as possible. I'm Josh Taylor. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like if you enjoy what you see. And I'll see y'all next time. Hopefully my camera will stay focused. It's a struggle, like traveling to Virginia and then coming back here and setting everything back up. Like you have no idea like what the setup is behind the camera right now. It's crazy. But my camera looks different than it usually does, by the way. I don't know. I'll have to fix it all up. But I appreciate y'all. Like I said, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Y'all have been awesome support lately. And I know I say this every offseason, and we as Washington fans, we do this every offseason. Like we're excited. We're like look, there we go again. We're like the offseason champions. Like that's our Super Bowl, which is super sad. But I thrive for the draft and I thrive for free agency. I'll do free agent stuff too. I'll talk about some head coaching candidates, some GM candidates and stuff like that as the season winds down. We still have like what, 5 or 6 weeks left. But still, it's never too late to talk about scouting. The scouting season is year long. Like if you are a scout, if you're watching college football, it's year long. There's no breaks in scouting these guys. So I'll see y'all next time here on the JTFB channel. Peace.